Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new Oreninc podcast series. I'm joined today by David Erfle, the junior minor junkie. And David, I'm very pleased that you're on the show here and that we're starting a new series here. Welcome, and welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Kai. Thanks a lot for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. We've discussed this briefly before starting or pressing the record button here. You're fairly new to the public junior mining scene, although you've been involved as an investor for years and years, longer than I have. So why don't you give our readers, subscribers, listeners, a bit of a background? Where do you come from? Where do you hail from?
Sure. I live in a little town called Sierra Madre, California. It's about 20 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. And I've been in the sector I've been trading in the sector for a little over 15 years and been doing it professionally for about 10. I started writing a column for Kitco in March of 2016, and it brought me some notoriety, and a lot of readers started sending me emails telling me I should start a subscription-based service, and I really didn't want to do that. I figured it would take away from my research. And it would take away from all the work I have to do in the market to figure out what I'm going to speculate in, and because I strictly invest in the junior resource market, so it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. But in April of last year, I kind of went into it kicking and screaming and said, "Okay, I'll do it." And,
if you're forcing me to, yes, I'll do it.
Exactly, yes. So I just, but I said to myself, and I just said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I know the newsletter business very well. I know a few newsletter writers. I subscribed to a few of them when I first started out, and I gained a lot of knowledge from a few of them, and I got rather upset from a few others. So I tried to take the best attributes of my favorite newsletters and apply them to my own with a little twist. And my little twist is I give my subscribers a 24-hour notice before I buy or sell anything.
Okay.
And in order to do that, I have limited it to only 200 subscribers.
Oh, no. Okay. That's, sort of creating a certain scarcity. That definitely helps.
Right. And it's created kind of a family atmosphere with the service, and it's worked really, really well. We kind of all get in at the same time, and we all kind of get out at the same time to thinly traded juniors, which, as you know, can be very difficult to get in at times, especially for large purchases. And my purchases are usually in the order of between $12,000 and $18,000 per position. Okay.
You're touching on something that we want to talk about a little more detail, is getting a decent position. So financings right. in general. And you're based in America, in the States, not in Canada, as most other listeners here. So participating in a private placement is for you more of a hassle than anything else.
Very much so, yes.
Tell us a little bit about the process and what makes it worthwhile.
Well, I was very fortunate for me to make it worthwhile. I was very fortunate to be able to get into the last Novo Resources private placement, and I did very, very well with that. But still, the process taking so long for a U.S. citizen was detrimental for me being able to sell a portion of that position at the optimum time, because it went up so far, so fast. If you're a Canadian citizen, you're able to sell a portion of your position after 4 months and a day when the restrictions come off. But as a U.S. citizen, I have to wait for the legend removal process to end, which can take an additional 4 to 6 weeks.
That's definitely a disadvantage to some trading theories here, or trading ideas here. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Especially when you know that the stock's been heavily promoted or being heavily promoted.
Exactly.
What are you looking for when you're participating in financing?
Well, I'm looking for a solid management team. I know a lot of people in the industry, and I have a lot of ears that I can bend and ask people about if I'm not very familiar with management. And I also look for jurisdiction and how large that land package is in that jurisdiction. There are targets for drilling. I look at that, but land package is essential. I don't want to invest in anything small.
Okay, so size does matter.
It does. Absolutely, it matters. I mean, you just go big or you go home in this sector, because basically what I'm trying to do is I always try to think like a major. I try to be in the shoes of a Goldcorp or an Agnico or a Barrick. Like what would I be looking for if I wanted to acquire a company? And you have to have large land packages with blue sky potential. That's a must.
Yeah, no, district potential is like the buzzword these days.
Right. So,
how are you seeing the financing activity in general? Like our numbers say it's fairly subdued still. We've only seen a few bought deals, but overall financing activity is pretty much down for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, it has been. But the big number that sticks out to me is last year you had nearly $500 million in financings come from strategic private placements from majors, which is huge. That is very good for the sector.
No, that's very healthy, actually. And you've pointed out in one of your recent newsletters, Mawson Resources, that's seen an investment by Goldcorp. Right. So there is a lot of activity in that space. And but do you see that continuing? It's like, because Goldcorp already mentioned, and I was kind of surprised then to see the Mawson one as well. Maybe it was on the list for a long time, but their CEO said they're done with strategic investments for now. Do you see a general slowdown there, or is that just an empty phrase?
I seriously believe that's an empty phrase. I mean, these majors, they have to replace their high grade ounces. They've got a ton of low grade ounces on the books that they've had to write down, and they need to replace high grade ounces. So that these strategic financings are going to continue, and like I said, it's very healthy for the sector.
Do you see a trigger coming up that might trigger another rally in financings? Because right now, as I said, it's very subdued. It needs a trigger, I think. And I hate bringing it up, but it really seems like blockchain, the pot space, and also Bitcoin, or just in general cryptocurrencies, are taking obviously a lot of the limelight here. We have to talk about it. I don't really want to, because it's very, very hyped, and it's just it's tough to talk about. I hear you. I'm not sure it's jealousy or not, but it's just very frustrating to see what's happening in that space, while good mining projects are having a hard time, raising a couple $1 million.
Yeah, I know, and these companies have something tangible to back their companies, when these blockchain companies don't. I mean, they're just ones and zeros. But anyway, I mean, it is something we have to talk about, because it has taken a lot away from the space. But you asked me what a catalyst would be, and with these majors, they usually chase price. So I think a catalyst will be the gold price having a monthly close above $1,375, because once that happens, we're technically in a bull market, because we're still not technically in a bull market in gold yet.
That's true. That's very true, actually. And the activity we've seen yesterday, so we're recording this interview on the 15th of February, but the activity we've seen yesterday on the 14th in the markets, I saw like almost all the watch list, or all the share or companies I have on my watch list were pretty much dark green yesterday. A lot of them, the development companies, or even the mid-tier producers, close to 10%. So
right, yeah. So on a day that focuses mostly on red, which is Valentine's Day, it was nice to see a lot of green, wasn't it?
It was refreshing, to be honest. I'm out here in Vancouver, and it's just depressing when you're out here by yourself.
Oh, so. Yeah, I can imagine.
No, but like
all that rain and all that red.
Exactly. No, always beautiful. It's freezing cold out here, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, but to come back to that, it's like, the trigger obviously was inflation numbers, from what I've been reading.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of the United States there, and but again today is like the excitement is gone again. Like, I'm not sure if it's just profit taking, because usually like you'd expect, okay, inflation is coming up. It should be maybe a bit of a rally, at least till Friday.
Well, you think you figure that a lot of that yesterday was short covering, but the thing to concentrate on, which is very encouraging, was the volume on the GDX. It was nearly 100 million shares traded again, and the volume spike on Friday was really interesting on the GDX because most of it happened in the last 5 minutes of trade.
And it seemed like, from what I've been reading, a lot of, let's say, technical analysts got this right, actually. And I was surprised because for me, that's like reading leftovers in a coffee cup, like technical analysis, especially in the junior mining space. But like they saw that hammer on Friday and said, okay, this is going to be the breakout here. And I have to give a lot of like respect to those guys because it really seemed like it. Okay, we're bouncing massively off of that low on Friday.
Yeah, and it was off critical support, which is at 21 level on the GDX. That was huge, especially, like I said, when you see a volume spike like that. But the really encouraging thing now, the takeaway from the inflation figures that were released yesterday was the market it seems to be focusing now on the effect of the interest rates, meaning the Fed continues to lag inflation, as opposed to concentrating on the rate hikes themselves, which is what they've been doing. Because if you notice, usually when you have a Fed meeting coming up, the sector usually sells into it.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of pressure usually in the gold space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then after it goes right back up. But the most interesting thing is historically, gold rises with interest rates due to that lag, that the fact that the Fed lags inflation on these interest rates. And when did the gold market bottom? It bottomed a month after the Fed raised rates for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I think that's where we're going to have a very interesting 2018, especially they're planning still like 3 interest rate hikes this year. So we should see a very active gold market. David, we've been talking for a while now. I think it was a great introduction to yourself, what you're doing. And I really appreciate you taking the time. We're going to be talking we're trying to talk every 2 weeks now. And I'm going to ask you, what's your weather like, or what's your weather forecast for the next 2 weeks for the gold space?
Oh, for the gold space. I was going to say.
Or at Vancouver, it changes every 10 minutes, but.
If you're going to ask about Sierra Madre, I don't think you'd want to hear it because it's been the warmest winter on record. I've yet to use my heater.
That's phenomenal.
But as far as the gold space is concerned, well, in China, it's Gold Week right now, so we're not going to get any help from them for the next week because it's closed until I think until next Wednesday or Thursday. So, but you also have option expiration on the 22nd here in February. So I think you really got to watch closely that 1350 price. It's holding here today, and I think if it holds today, you're going to. I think you're probably going to see some more strength in the gold market here. But I'd really like to see a monthly close in February above 1375. If you look at the gold chart now, it's got a beautiful cup and handle on it. So that's a very bullish chart pattern during consolidation. So, but we still have to have the miners start to lead. I mean, they started to catch up a little bit yesterday, but like I said, a lot of that was probably short covering. But the miners have been lagging here for over a year. I mean, when we started off in 2017, the gold price was a little less than 1175, and the GDX was trading at about the same price it is now.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's a great topic. We should focus on a little more in our next podcast edition here.
That'd be great, sure.
David, how can people get a hold of you? How do they find you?
Okay, I have a weekly column that comes out on Kitco every Friday, and I have a website. Website is www.juniorminerjunky.com, and that's Junky with a Y.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. I much appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to our regular podcast series here with you.
Me too, Kai. It was fun. Thanks a lot.